I asked if you were ready.
I was until I had to cough.
Until I just had to crap my pants. Well, before we get to the first of 3 movies that we're seeing tonight, I want to promote our Patreon page again, because we've been adding a lot of stuff to that recently and pumping that out a bit more. So if you're looking for an extra way to support us and support everything we do on the channel, go to patreon.com/the Cinema Snob and be a subscriber on there. I've been adding the old Snob episodes by season over there. Just like you can go over there and you can find folders that have I have the first couple on there now, so you can find folders that have episodes on there per season that you can download. And earlier today I even added the first draft of the script for another Cinema Snob movie.
Oh, cool.
That's like way longer than what the shooting script was. Has a bunch of like deleted subplots, deleted scenes. There's a whole third act that's like way different than what was in the movie, and like they told me it was too dark. And I was like, you know what, you might be right. It might be a little too dark and a little inconsistent for the 2 acts that came before it. So for the first time ever, that's now available. That's over at patreon.com/the Cinema Snob. Plus, you can see early videos too, early episodes of the Cinema Snob, and you can see these videos as well before they end up at least a day or so before they end up going live. So again, patreon.com/the Cinema Snob. Check that out. The first thing we went to go see tonight, or that we saw, we haven't seen the other 2 movies yet, but is the Tom Hanks Mr. Rogers movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And it is bizarre.
It's very bizarre. It's very surreal. It's good. It's very good. It's a very good movie. But you go into this thinking that you're about to go see a Mr. Rogers biopic, and that's not it. That's not it. I mean, wow. From the moment he's like, hey, I need to tell you about my friend Lloyd, and he opens that little picture door and shows Lloyd with a broken nose. I'm like, Jesus
The character,
Christ.
not Lloyd from our website. Matthew Rhys plays in the movie. I knew from the trailer that this was about this guy that Matthew Rhys plays in the film, who is assigned to do an article on Mr. Rogers and is profiling him and everything. And
I thought that was like the segue to like the biopic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. But it is primarily about the Lloyd character in the film. And the way that it does the story is strange.
Yes.
Because, like, it starts out like it's the movie is like it's an episode of Mr. Rogers. You have sequences in the film where there's establishing shots and it's like the set
Oh, I love that. It was
landing.
so cute. It was so cute.
It's when it starts, and it's starting with an episode of Mr. Rogers, and then, you're right, when he opens that cubby door, and it's like our main character with a broken nose, like, this is going in weird places. What the movie feels like is if they made a movie out of one of, like, Andy Kaufman's sketches, like, where he's hosting a kids show.
Or if Mr. Rogers suddenly became the crypt keeper. Like, I'd like to tell you about my friend Lloyd.
And like, there's strange parts in it where, like, he's having visions of Mr. Rogers on the street, following him into a bus, and even when he's dreaming and he's the rabbit on this miniature set with the puppets, it's like a Mr. Rogers movie by way of David Lynch in a couple of parts. Like, and story-wise, like, I was digging what it was doing, where it's this guy that Matthew Rhys plays, who has a very cynical view on life and people, and has bad issues with his father, and even not. And even some problems at home too with his wife, and they have a newborn baby. So you have him matched with what Mr. Rogers is, this symbol of everything good and decent in
Kindness,
the world. And and you see how the movie is very much Lloyd's, all of his relationships and everything being dealt with through the movie because of the influence of Mr. Rogers, whether it's the show or just kind of communicating with him in general.
Yeah.
And you see how that affects, to a good degree, his view on the world, his view on people, and that there is such a thing as remorse, redemption, and things like that. I was enjoying that. It was like a good version of Jerry Springer Ringmaster.
I mean, I'll take your word for it on that one, because Ringmaster.
You didn't see that piece of shit?
I did not see Ringmaster.
You're not missing anything. Here's how Jerry Springer was an influence on this trashy family.
Here's how Mr. Rogers.
Much that. Oh yeah.
Here's how Mr. Rogers was an influence on this trashy family.
So, and also the movie, I thought, moved quick. Like, it was a quick sit. The movie's an hour and 48 minutes long, and when it ended, it goes by fairly fast. Like, I remember I looked down at my phone at one point, just because I looked down and I had a message, and was like, whoa, this movie's been on for like over an hour.
Right, yeah.
It goes at a really good pace.
I was, I looked at my phone afterwards, mostly because of my bladder. I was like, come on, hold out for a little bit longer, and then I was like, screw it, I can't. Yeah. I was proud of myself yesterday at The Irishman. It was 3.5 hours long, and I didn't have to use the bathroom once. That's very proud of myself. At our age, that's kind of a feat.
It is. I can't go through a whole night without having to get up and use the restroom a couple of times, especially if I have a nightcap before I go to sleep. I do, and I like that the family in the movie, they really do feel like a family in this film, especially towards the end when you kind of see small talk amongst them and the way they kind of play off of each other, whether it's through humor and other things. It felt really genuine, I thought. What did you think of Tom Hanks? I mean,
he did a great job as Mr. Rogers. He really did. I mean, it's kind of. It was kind of weird to me because, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers. And so, like, I knew what the real Mr. Rogers looked like. And, I mean, so while Tom Hanks looks a lot like Mr. Rogers,
I thought he looked more like a nice Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
You can see
I see it.
I watched Mr. Rogers when I was a kid. I was more of a Sesame Street guy, but...
Oh, you're one of those?
Oh, yes. I have the Miami Mice tattooed on my ass.
Miami Mice. I forgot about that. My
rubber ducky's missing.
Chill out, Ernie. Chill out. You're with the Miami Mice.
But I would watch Mr. Rogers because I would have PBS on quite a bit, like when my grandma was watching us during the day. So I would see Mr. Rogers, and I liked Mr. Rogers. So yeah, him in this movie, like, he does very much put forth that aura of this niceness and goodness of this character.
Which I mean, Tom Hanks is the guy to do that.
I mean, he is. I mean, there's times in the movie where, like, where it could kind of slightly come across like he's like, is he like a cult leader? Like, or is he just really, like, simple?
Or is he kind of a psychopath, Like I said, there were...
Is he an older Forrest Gump in some scenes? But he's really not in the movie all that much.
No, he's
like,
not. He's not.
So they use him sparingly.
Yeah. So like I said, here I was going into this thinking that it was a biopic, and it wasn't. It really wasn't a biopic.
It's really not, and like the way that he's portrayed in the movie and everything, I was fine with that, because I mean, like there were a couple of times where Matthew Rhys is trying to interview him and he starts playing with puppets.
Yeah.
I would be sitting there going like, dude, did you just have a stroke? And they're like, or like I would go back to the office and be like, I think something's wrong. Like he might be like 12 years old.
I think he's mentally disturbed. No, but I like that because basically it's revealed halfway through the movie, or are we? What are we? There's nothing to really spoil.
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's revealed that they did their homework on him.
Sure.
So it was almost like Mr. Rogers knew that he'd have to help Lloyd.
Yeah.
You know, along the way, and so that was the thing. You know, whenever he starts getting out the puppets, what you realize is Mr. Rogers is setting up for basically a psychology therapy session.
No, it was, and it's kudos to the writers and the director of this movie, because this could have gone south so hard, like really hard. If it was a full-on bio of Mr. Rogers, I'd almost want maybe even like a no-name playing him, or someone like that. So that way you can really kind of get immersed into this big screen version of Mr. Rogers. But what they do here, and Tom Hanks playing him as this kind of wise, almost fatherly or like nice uncle figure to this dude.
I mean, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, exactly. Showing up when he needs to show up to do what he needs to do. It works. It's an original film.
It really is.
I'm curious as to what audiences will think of it.
Yeah.
Because it is bizarre.
It is very bizarre.
It's one of the weirdest movies.
So surreal.
Yeah, like this is like Mr. Rogers by way of like Brigsby Bear or something strange. Like I know you didn't see that movie, but it's this movie Irving and I saw a couple years ago. It's really good, but I guarantee this movie will not play it as straight as you think it does, based on the trailer for the film.
Right.
So I was kind of
the trailer is very misleading.
I was digging that. It goes in places you won't really expect it to, and some sequences are it's almost like someone, like the screenwriter, smoked a lot of pot while watching Mr. Rogers. I was like, I got it. What if he's the rabbit on the set and he looks down and there's a giant Mr. Rogers looking at him and giving him advice? Brilliant. But oddly enough, it works.
It did. It really did.
Because it was entertaining, and it is what I like seeing Matthew Rhys and stuff. I like that guy a lot. Did you watch The Americans?
I did not.
That's a damn good show, and he was awesome on
That's
it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I recommend this. I do. I don't think I'd put it as like one of the best of the year by any means.
Definitely recommend this. This is
recommend
a good movie. I'd recommend it mostly because I'm gonna get a little philosophical on here. Hold on, let me do it. Do we have time? We have like 5 minutes
before Frozen 2.
So what I'd like to say is that I felt like Lloyd is a good representation of like the world today.
Oh yeah. With his cynicism, his very warped view of people, his depressing view of people, his constant need to attack.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's what's missing with the world today is Mr. Rogers.
Right.
And so what I would really recommend for audiences, go see this movie and even find some episodes of Mr. Rogers on the internet.
Or the documentary that was out.
I haven't seen that yet either.
Yeah.
I need to. You were talking about that whenever we walked in, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to see that."
Yeah, that one too. They make two good companion pieces with each other.
This world needs more Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what side you're on politically either.
No,
like, either
it doesn't.
can learn a thing
it's
or
got
two.
nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
It's just. Damn, Mr. Rogers would make you think, make you feel, and it's something that needs to be done.
And this movie will make you feel too, make you feel high as hell.
Right?
watching this.
Yeah.
That's actually a good way to go into the theater to see this movie. Like, you smoke some shit going into this movie, you won't believe.
Or take an edible.
Yeah,
Take an edible.
You won't believe like half of the stuff in the movie's actually happening. You'll be like, whoa, this is starting to hit me like right now. That's not a city, that's like toys. All right, so we're gonna see a couple other movies. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.